problems, concerns. The answers can be hard to find. Your voice may not be heard. The alternative, Vantage Point.
Hello, I'm Michael Taylor, your host for Vantage Point. It's a program designed to look into the issues and concerns for everyone associated with Valdosta State University. We'll be examining a wide range of issues and bringing you the stories as we have them documented. For a long time, students on the campus have recognized parking as a growing problem. You've seen the articles. You've heard the comments and criticisms and complaints. Well, so have we. And that's why this week on Vantage Point, we look at parking on the Valdosta State campus.
This is not enough parking spaces.
I don't think about parking that often because I don't even park on campus.
I don't think that's right for teachers not to be able to just to get their parking spaces free.
Okay, I think that it's not fair and that teachers should have to pay for parking details also. They are a part of the school just like students are a part of the school.
Well, I think if we had a parking deck, that would make more space for parking.
This meeting, rally, whatever you want to call it, is about us. This country guarantees us the right of free speech. Unfortunately,
these are the sights and sounds from the parking rally held on VSU campus April 11th. The rally was headed up by SGA Vice President Uday Echo. Concerns for both better lighting and more safety phones were addressed, but the ultimate issue was parking.
I live on campus, and parking to me hasn't been a big problem because I just park my car at Oak Street parking lot and I'm in the dorm every day. But I do see how it is a problem to other students. I've read the article in the Spectator about the parking deck, and that sounds like a great idea if it could be built. I really don't know any other solution, but carpooling sounds like a great idea.
The administration has admitted that it is a problem, and I know there's plans to improve it, but I personally don't see it happening. But I do think the situation needs to be rectified. The parking situation is ridiculous, and as the university grows, I think that the available parking spaces should also, and it just hasn't happened.
It's really hard to find parking, so I always park at the university center, and I always get my classes in the afternoon, so it's a little easier for me.
I think they should make that the Oak Street parking lot into a parking garage, make more spots for the students to park at.
You have a bad parking problem here. You have to walk a long way to campus. You can't even find any convenient parking places. What few good parking places there are taken up by the faculty. They're not providing us with a parking facility. They waste their money on fountains and all kind of stuff when, we really need parking on this campus.
I think VSU needs a couple more parking spaces. I think they should have been building split level parking spaces instead of trying to get this new recreation center, because we have nowhere to park. We have to park 4 blocks off campus, and we just need more parking spaces.
The more students we talked to, the more we heard the same proposed solution.
We should make a double-decker parking garage.
Parking garage, multi-level parking.
Build an upper deck over Oak Street parking lot.
There's more students with cars than they have spaces allotted, and I feel that perhaps a multi-level parking building would benefit the campus greatly.
I spend about 15 minutes a day trying to look for a parking space. I really would like to see a parking deck be built over the parking lot in the education center, because there's no sense in having to look for a parking space for 20 minutes when you're trying to get to a class.
I really think they need to build the upper deck for the parking lot out there. That'd solve a lot of problems as far as parking goes, because there's a lot of times when you can't find a space and you got to get to class. I'd rather have a parking deck, that I could park for free or for a nickel or something, than having to wait 5 or 6 years to get a new student center that I'm not ever going to see.
It's just awful, and they need to build a parking deck or something, because late at night when I come home from work, there's no place for me to park, so I have to park all the way out in East Bumble.
Many believe the solution to Valdosta State's parking problem is a multi-level parking deck here on what's now called Oak Street parking lot. One of the concerns is what's under Oak Street parking lot. Officials say they aren't certain if the ground underneath will support the proposed parking deck. However, it doesn't stop there. Funds to support the garage are just as much of a mystery. So the question remains, how feasible is the proposed parking deck? To get the answer to these questions, we spoke with VSU President Dr. Hugh Bailey. How feasible is a parking deck, Valdosta?
It's not very feasible at all, because each parking space would cost between $5,000 and $12,000. Georgia Tech has just put in additional parking. It's cost $12,500 per slot. And I don't think that the students and faculty would care to pay the millions of dollars of cost to create additional parking. And we're very fortunate. We have within a mile or so of campus a great deal of space. It's simply a matter of transporting students from those, and faculty and staff, from those parking places to where they wish to be. It's a transportation problem.
When some students hear these comments, they suggest the university spend less time on beautification and more time making spaces.
They could do a little more with the beautiful landscape. They could use a little more of that for a parking space, I think.
Right, they waste their money on fountains and all kind of stuff when, you know, we really need parking on this campus.
I don't think, you know, crowding parking lots with decorations and fountains and anything is really going to help the parking problem any.
However, some students are opposed to these ideas.
So I think we should have upper deck to Oak Street. But I don't want them to take away from, like, our beauty of our university, though. Because that's, you know, I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what everybody says of how pretty our university is. And if they're going to put a parking deck somewhere around here, then they're going to put it on where it's pretty. You know? I'd rather be pretty than walk a couple more inches.
VSU President Dr. Hugh Bailey.
Well, I'm opposed to that. I think the beauty of our campus is the trees and the vegetation that we have, and that we have to try to conserve this. As we create additional parking, we'll certainly try not to cut trees. But there's some areas, like for example in front of Nevins Hall, across from where there is parking now, that you could put in 20 additional parking spaces and not cut any trees at all. It would take some monies to do this. You know, anything you do takes money. Now, we could create some of these with resources that we have available from various funds. And we will continue to work on this and continue to create additional off-campus parking and additional bus transportation to facilitate the movement of people.
Where is parking on the agenda of the administration?
Well, the parking is high on the administration's agenda, but the administration cannot use state monies for parking, generally speaking. So therefore, what we have to do, we have to find other sources for funding.
For the 1995-96 school year, up until January, Valdosta's parking services had issued 12,851 tickets. With tickets ranging from $10 to $15, that's a profit of over $160,000. Students wonder, where does the money go?
We don't want to write tickets. We want people to obey the rules. The parking fee on this campus was $3. The average parking violation was $3. The Student Government Association passed a bill a number of years ago asking us to increase it to $10 because many people felt they'd rather pay $3 than walk across campus. It was absolutely of no effect whatsoever. So we do not levy fines to raise money. We levy fines to try to force people to obey the law. Those funds go into the general fund, and from that comes developments in parking. We use most of those funds to develop additional facilities that help us with the parking situation, pay the individuals who work for us, the monitors, and so on.
When Vantage Point returns, we'll take a look at some of the possible parking alternatives here at Valdosta State University. Stay tuned, folks. Vantage Point will be right back after this.
Math, a four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that.
Why design the world's newest chips?
When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra.
No pocket protectors here.
But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look.
That's math staring back at you.
It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.
Billy wants to work on airplanes someday. Maybe one that you fly in. Now, would you like to call for this free booklet of simple ways to improve his education?
For the 1995-96 school year, VSU's parking services issued 6,634 parking decals for students. There are 2,105 student spaces. There are 1,387 faculty and staff members with parking decals and a combined 918 spaces for the two groups. Not everyone will be in search for a parking space at one time, but a shortage in available parking spaces is evident. So what can be done? Is there some magical solution out there that can solve VSU's parking problems? Some students support the proposed parking deck, while others say let's spend less time on beautification and more time making spaces. But what can the students do to relieve VSU of its parking problems?
Riding the bike, parking at North Campus, walking.
If they have a bike and they're close to the campus, maybe a mile, they should be able to, I mean, if they have a car, I mean, if they have a bike or rollerblades, they should go ahead and ride the bike or rollerblade. It'd be much quicker than trying to drive around for half an hour looking for a parking space close to campus. If they find one, more power to them, but I say go ahead and ride a bike. That's what I do, or a rollerblade.
A lot of people do live close to campus, so if they walked or rode their bikes, that would open up some more spaces. But I did hear in the news or in the Spectator that they were going to have, or try to have, the faculty and staff pay for parking on campus, which I think is very important.
Oh, that doesn't bother me. It would seem, I would be concerned paying for parking if it took extra paperwork. Actually, I think there ought to be more tickets given to people who park in the wrong spots, and part of the problem is learning where to park and how to park and taking the time, and I think a lot of the so-called parking problem is in people's minds.
I don't agree with it because it's just a common courtesy to provide your employees with parking.
I think if you have special parking privileges, then you need to pay for those parking privileges. Therefore, if you are supposed to park in a green designated slot and there is no green designated slots left, then you should also have to pay the same fines that we have to pay when we don't have a parking space.
That's their right. I mean, they are the teachers. It's more important that they be here for us to be able to get to class, but I think there should be enough parking for everybody.
Okay, I think that it's not fair and that teachers should have to pay for parking decals also. They are a part of the school just like students are a part of the school. I think they should have to pay for them.
I think everybody should have to pay one. As a matter of fact, I thought they had to.
Do you think VSU will ever go to a first-come, first-served basis of parking that includes faculty, staff, students as well?
I doubt it. I don't know any place in the world that does that. The faculty feel that they have the prerogative since they're here 15, 20, 30 years. Since they're a bit older, they have certain rights and privileges. Age does carry privilege, rank carries privilege. We're genuinely democratic, but our democracy ends somewhere along the way. And I think that's right. I support that idea. I think faculty and staff, since they are here over many, many years, probably have some rights that people who are here only 2 to 4 years probably do not have.
Still in search for a solution?
Freshmen should be eliminated. They shouldn't allow freshmen to have cars on campus because it just takes up excess space, and the freshmen who live in dormitories, their cars sit in the parking lot just taking up extra spots.
I disagree because, you know, just like seniors and juniors, we paid our money to come to school too, so as us being freshmen shouldn't, you know, judge us if we should be able to drive to school or not. Because, I mean, we paid the same fees they paid.
Personally, I don't think that would be a good policy. I personally think the best policy would be for the university to construct more parking facilities. I personally think that if we denied freshmen the right to park, it could decrease the attendance at the university.
Actually, because that'll work. Because some freshmen now they park on campus and leave their cars and getting tickets and don't really care anyway. That'd be a great idea.
I feel that if freshmen live on campus and they work on campus and they don't have to commute to a job, that it's okay if they need to help prevent some of the parking problems, to not let them have cars the first year like several other colleges.
What we're going to end up having to do maybe is telling freshmen no cars.
Some of the bigger universities do that. How do you think that'd go over here?
Well, I think for the first group of freshmen, they would be all up in arms, and then by the time they were sophomores, they would think it's a great idea.
When Vantage Point returns, we'll take a look at the VSU shuttle busing system and speak with Valdosta City Traffic Engineer, Mr. Bill Kent. Back after this.
Good afternoon, officer. It's my license and registration. Cheeseburger? It's hot out today, huh, officer? Maybe my tail light's out.
Shouldn't you be carpooling?
I guess you're right.
I guess I am.
Carpooling can save up to 600,000 gallons of gas a year. This message sponsored by Ad Council and EarthShare.
Sally wants to be a surgeon when she grows up. Maybe someday she'll operate on you. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve her education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
Oh, this is the lady. She'll talk to me. Now that we've established that VSU has a parking problem, and we've looked at several solutions, the VSU shuttle bus is one route to take.
My name is Irvin Robinson. I drive for the motel line. My destination, I start off at West, leave West, go to UC, from UC to the motel. And I enjoy my ride because it's a pleasant thing working with the young students. We all get along together, make my job pleasant.
I come to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I work till 11:30 at night, and I run the blue line all around campus, taking students to and from their classes. The stops for the blue line is West, University Center, the parking lot, Palms Dining, North Campus, and then back to West.
I always thought the parking was a big problem, but now it's not as big of a problem. They've got the shuttle buses, so I believe that helped them.
Bus system is great.
April the 15th, we'll have 2 new buses delivered, which are twice the size of the present buses that we have, and we may have to purchase more. We may have to change routes a bit and speed up the delivery of students. We have to make it convenient for students to get to class, and we need to work on this consistently. We need to create additional parking spaces, and we need to get additional buses that will transport people more rapidly to where they need to go.
The current busing system provides students with an opportunity to park long distances away from campus and not have to be concerned with a long walk to class. There has been discussion to expand the bus route to include the mall, but as of yet, no changes along those lines have been made.
I ride the bus every day. For me, it works. I mean, I go to North Campus, back and forth to North Campus, and the buses are always here. If not, I just wait for them. I don't have a problem with them. The bus drivers are always very nice and courteous, and we have a lot of bumps, but it works for me. Because I also work on North Campus, and so I don't have to bring my car over here and try and look for a parking spot and try and fight traffic or anything. I just get on the bus and I go. And it works for me because it comes, I get to class on time. There are times when I kind of rush, but I mean, it's good for me. It's convenient for me. It saves me a lot of trouble trying to get from one campus to the other. So I like it, and I'm glad that we have it. I'd be in a boatload of trouble, I think, if we didn't have it, because I don't know how I would be able to get in my car and try and find a spot. And if I couldn't find a spot, where would I park? I don't have a clue.
The VSU shuttle busing system is not the only program designed to ease the parking problems of Valdosta State. To get a closer look at the system, we went to see the Valdosta City Traffic Engineer, Mr. Bill Kent.
Existing parking around the college on city streets
We've had some problems with driveways being blocked, people parking too close to intersections, especially along major streets such as Williams, Patterson, and Oak. If a car is parked too close to the intersection and a car is trying to turn off of a major street, there's not a whole lot of room in there, and there's a potential for some conflicts in there. The mayor and council established a goal to set up a committee to evaluate the transportation problems around the college. And on this committee was representatives from our office. We had a representative from VSU, and we had representatives of each of the neighborhoods around the college. And we got together for several months back in '94 and talked about traffic and not only traffic but pedestrians, bicycles, transportation needs around the college. The outcome of this committee was a study that I did around the college studying the parking. That seemed to be the major concern of both the neighborhoods and VSU. After evaluating what we had and where we had it, it was interesting to find that there was no uniform parking around the college. One street we may have parking on both sides of the street, and then you go a block over and there's no parking on either side of the street, even though there's no difference between the two streets. Or there's different time that you could park in there. So what I try to do is come up with a uniform application of parking rules so that any residential street that is representative, like the same width, and if it's got sidewalks and things like that, that you would know just by going out where the parking would be located.
We understand that there are some changes that need to be made. How will you go about making those changes?
Okay, we are going to hire a painting contractor who will paint the curbs, and we have ordered signs that we will install ourselves. We've estimated it's going to cost about $30,000. We are eliminating some parking. If you look at the total area that we studied, and you count the number of existing spaces, available space, and you count up what's going to happen after we implement these changes, we are decreasing the overall parking. That's misleading because all of that parking is not taken at the same time. Okay, we may take parking from one street altogether, but then there'll be parking available on a different street. So it's not like when people go to park there's going to be no parking spaces.
Any changes going to be made over in the area near Sunset Park, over in the back of the Oak Street parking lot? Any changes over there? Because for a while, at the beginning of the quarters, students park all along there. Is there going to be any changes?
Some around the intersections with Bay Tree, the other street in there. Yeah, we'll paint curb away from the intersection to get the cars away from the intersections and driveways. But as far as like along the cemetery right there, no, we're not going to do any changes along there. That's an excellent place for people to park. Of course, the Fraternity Row is going to go back in that open field back there, and there might be some changes after that gets in. Okay. Yeah. Part of this study I did included a recommendation for sidewalks. You had mentioned Tomb Street earlier. If you've ever watched the people walk along, they walk down the middle of the street. And there's several other streets that are the same way. It'd be nice to have sidewalks on every street to get people and whatever else up off the street, you know. Most people don't pay attention when they're driving down the street, and you sure hate to have somebody jump out in front of a car and get hit. So we've made a recommendation on that, and that, because of the cost involved in that type of thing, it's going to be a long-term implementation of that. As the university grows, there's more traffic, there's more parking, more pedestrians,
And we've got to look at all those things, you know. We're out there to protect everybody. And so just each year, as you guys grow, our job gets more and more important around there.
As the city engineer, how has there been any conversation about a city transportation that would maybe circle around the different areas and include Valdosta State?
Well, not since I've been here. I understand before I came here they did a transit study, buses or whatever, and there just wasn't enough. There wouldn't be enough participation to make it worthwhile to have any revenue to maintain that type of system. Of course, VSU, they've got their shuttle buses that...
When Vantage Point returns, we'll take you inside the parking rally. Stay tuned, you're watching Vantage Point on VSU Channel 12.
Good afternoon, officer. My license and registration. Cheeseburger? It's hot out today, huh, officer? Maybe my tail light's out.
Shouldn't you be carpooling?
I guess you're right.
I guess I am.
Carpooling can save up to 600,000 gallons of gas a year. This message sponsored by Ad Council and EarthShare.
Tommy wants to design bridges when he grows up. Maybe he'll design one that you'll use. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve his education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
This parking rally was held April the 11th here in the Free Speech area of Valdosta State University campus. Students, faculty, and media came out to listen on. Though a lack of lighting and security phones was addressed, the key issue was parking.
Mr. Gerald Williams. Gerald, for 9,000 students, we have 3 emergency phones. I am going to put out a survey specifically for parking and safety issues. Make the call before you park.
Uday Echo as well as John Trombetta agreed to speak with us in the studios. Michael Taylor spoke with them about their parking concerns. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it. And we're joined by John Trombetta, who is the controller for VSU's Student Government Association. And John, I understand that you've been working with this issue of parking and kind of working with the administration. Can you kind of fill us in on where we are?
Absolutely. What we're dealing with right now is, obviously that we've got a parking problem. So what I've been doing is kind of working with the administration and finding out, offering solutions, and seeing what kind of solutions they're offering also. Mr. Jim Brignotti, the Vice President of Business and Finance, has got blueprints for, now it was 9, now I think it's up to 10, because we added a new blueprint for plans, actual plans for parking. Are these plans close to campus, as in walking distance? Probably not. You'll probably need to, we'll probably need to increase our shuttle service with these plans. When you have, some sites include, behind the Oak Street parking lot in that Sunset Park area, which will be in the new Greek Row area. A lot of there's also a science building that's going to be built on this campus, and so that is also going to offset some of those plans. So there's, and the one behind Oak Street is, I believe it was 536 spaces. All told, other plans were around 600 spaces total. But there's a lot of reconstruction that has to be done. The important thing is that we do them, in a timely fashion, but we've also got to be very careful about them. As far as, we've had the 2 lots that we opened on Georgia Street, the makeshift lots where some of the old fraternity houses were torn down. well, we put gravel down there, and that was, you know, it's kind of a makeshift parking lot, but not only do you get more spaces when you pave them and line them, it's also a lot more, a lot careful. We've had a couple accidents in there because people slide on that gravel.
Right.
And there was a couple of construction oversights, and you know, like a pole sticking out of the ground, for instance, somebody backed over that. And, you know, we're paying an insurance claim on that.
Right. So it's kind of an ongoing process with budgetary problems as well, I would imagine, figuring into the mix, which is why it falls to Mr. Bignotti to try to figure out a way to handle it.
And that's, it's basically, you know, we can draw plans all day, but we've got to be able to, come up with the money. The University of Georgia spent millions and millions to build great, big, huge parking lots. It costs their students a lot of money.
Right.
We will probably, and I've been pegged as saying that, you know, I want to raise the parking fee. I'm not necessarily saying I want to raise it, but I think that it may be an inevitable part of growth.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll kind of continue this in a few minutes. We're going to be joined now by Uday Echo, who will be bringing us kind of another side. Of course, he has been very involved in the student voice, if you will, and we'll be right back after this.
Thousands of women will lose a child to AIDS simply because they didn't get an HIV test when they were pregnant. You see, there's now treatment that can help stop the spread of HIV from mother to baby, which gives children of HIV-infected mothers something they never had before: a chance. If you're pregnant, please get an HIV test.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
We're joined now by Mr. Uday Echo, who is the Vice President of Valdosta State University's Student Government Association. And Uday, I know that this parking situation has been something on your mind for quite some time now. Could you kind of fill us in on where you are in relation to trying to see some changes come through?
Yes, as you're well aware, we did have a rally last month, and this rally was a direct catalyst in bringing the faculty and the students together. The Faculty Senate's parking committee that has been defunct since last year was suddenly resuscitated, and I am the standing student member on that board, and we've met twice. We are currently working on proposals from both the student standpoint and the faculty standpoint. In fact, the Vice President-elect, who will replace me on the committee next year, is attending those meetings also.
Oh, okay.
So the creation of the problem has been established. Now the solution process is taking place.
Okay, so we're kind of underway on trying to find ways to address what has been a growing problem.
Definitely. The biggest aspect, the biggest reason why the rally was necessary was the student apathy on campus. Many students have cars. I don't have a car, and but it's a matter of we should care about how the school goes, and this is not only confined to students. Should be faculty and administrators too. Should all care about this school.
Okay. Well, in just a moment, we'll be joined by John Trombetta again and see if we can't go through a bit of a dialogue and see if maybe we can come up with some ideas and some possible scenarios for solutions to what has been a vexing problem at the very least as this university grows from a college to a university and from a small university to a rather large regional university as we're trying to move forward. But in the meantime, I understand that you also have a couple of other concerns about the parking lots as well, about general security for some of the students.
Yes, another issue that the parking rally addressed was that of lighting on campus. The lights are very poor, and you know, most students who have 20/20 eyesight could say, well, it's all right for me, but we have to remember those who do not have such a chance of eyesight. We also have a problem with emergency phones. We have 3 on campus right now, 3 or 4, and one of them is at least is not situated in a very user-friendly area. It's at the end of the parking lot, not the beginning. So we hope this could be treated as a priority too.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at that as well as the overall parking problem. And as I said, in just a moment, we'll be rejoined by Mr. John Trombetta and get a dialogue rolling. We'll be right back right after this.
There's a lot of bad news in the world. Here's some good. Warren Zorich brought help to an elderly fire survivor, 28 stories up, no elevator. Elaine King breathed life into a stranger's dying baby boy. Kristen Zimke resuscitated a dying man who collapsed in a crowd. Keep the good news coming. Give your time, support, and blood to the American Red Cross now, because help can't wait.
Picasso painted the old guitarist during a period of depression that lasted 4 years, his blue period. Today, with new discoveries, 80% of depressive disorders are being successfully treated, giving hope to millions that maybe now nobody has to have a blue period.
Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave, and so I rise, I rise, I rise.
And we're rejoined now by John Trombetta, who is the controller for VSU's Student Government Association, and Mr. Uday Echo, the vice president for VSU's Student Government Association. Now, both of you have obviously been involved with this parking issue as it came up. Can we backtrack a little bit? How long has this kind of been a simmering issue, Uday?
I know it has always been a simmering issue. I do understand that parking can never be filled. It's like a bottomless pit. No matter what you put in it, there's still a problem. I think since we became a university, it has increased in scope. And one thing I would like to say, I think there are many ways to kill a rat. That's a familiar proverb from home. And you know, I do understand there are many different directions. And I think maybe that's what seems to be the case right now.
Okay. Now, John, I know that you've been working with this issue, obviously this year. Has this been something that student government has been looking at over the past couple of 3 years, or did it kind of come to you guys' lap pretty much this year?
It seems to have been more of a priority in our administration than in others. But I think, you know, any student government administration's probably had to look at the problem, or you know, has been told about the problem, much before ours. But it seems to have been a hot topic, and our administration, to our credit, has sort of made it a priority to, you know, get our
move
hands
forward
in the
on
mud.
it. Yeah. In dealing with the administration, I know one of the things that was suggested very early on was the idea of faculty and staff likewise beginning to pay for their parking privileges. Where do we stand with that issue at this point?
It was something that I sent a letter to Dr. Bailey, and the Senate also passed a resolution on it. It is now moving into the hands of the Faculty Senate, who will take a look at it, and in a sense, in what Dr. Bailey said, well, he's going to get the Faculty Senate to look at it, and the Council on Staff Affairs, and get their input. He's got the input from the students. We want it.
Right.
The other two organizations, and it may be a tougher sell there than it was in the Senate, but it's something that, you know, I think that we could probably be faced with here shortly, because we're the odd man out. A lot of most campuses, and I know you've been on a few, do charge for faculty and staff for parking, and a lot of folks are surprised and somewhat,
well,
glad.
Surprised and somewhat pleased.
Exactly. So yeah, that was awesome.
Now, Udi, of course, since you are going to be sitting as a member of the Faculty Senate's Parking Committee, where do you see, how do you get a sense of a feel for how the faculty stands at this point on the idea of suddenly they have to shell out for their parking as well?
That's a good question. On the committee, the faculty members there are willing. They're willing to consider the idea. Of course, they are interested in seeing some area on campus set aside for their parking, which I do understand with, and I'm prepared to support them on that. At the same time, my presence there is to remind them that there are 3 branches on campus. If that section is kept aside for them, which most likely will be between Western Powell Hall, we also have to get more spaces. And from what Mr. Trombetta said, and from what we do realize, spaces are in the making, and hopefully the bulk of those spaces will go to students. So that way, the growth goes on an equitable level for all concerned.
Right. Okay. Now, I understand that basically, and both of you can kind of jump in as you feel free on this one, I understand that the generated funds from parking tickets, and I understand that faculty has kind of been able to slide occasionally on some of our illegal parking, but the revenue funds that parking tickets generate tends to go back into, instead of directly into parking, into the general university fund. Is this something we need to address, possibly?
Or more specifically, the public safety division of their general fund. But
why don't you go first?
Well, I'm sorry, I wanted to, do you want...
Okay. I'm just, in fact, being at the committee meeting on Tuesday, that issue came up. That will form one of our proposals, that all monies collected from parking, and currently I serve as the Traffic Appeals Board Chair, where we decide on all student tickets. We're hoping that all monies would go to the auxiliary services, which should be the appropriate agency in the state or in the university to manage such funds. That way, the money will be there, or at least the seed money will be there to help more in the progress of parking. So on that note, I think the students and faculty are united on that.
Okay. Now, John, you may have a little bit more insight, having worked with Mr. Brignati, and if I'm remembering correctly, we cannot expend state-generated revenue for parking on this campus. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. You can't. Any type of state funds has basically you're looking at classrooms.
Okay. So that puts us in a situation. We will have to address from a local level the idea of, if we're going to improve parking, we've got to pay for it somehow.
Sure. And I think he and I've heard from auxiliary services, they welcome the idea of the actual parking services coming out from under public safety and onto the auxiliary services side of things, because when you take them out, you take the revenue that's associated with them, and it's easier to identify. And once you identify it, then you can say, okay, 10% goes directly into parking improvements, because, after your salaries and fees and stuff like that. But once you identify those funds, then you can start taking away and saying, and putting them towards a parking improvement, which I think is where we're going to start. And it's a proper starting point as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I know one of the issues that surfaced early was the idea of almost like the funds that will be generated for the recreation center that the student body by petition put forward to the administration. Is there any more movement in the area of possibly putting together maybe a student, faculty, staff revenue generating process similar to what would be worked out for the recreation center? Or
as far as basically a fee increase? Is that,
well, possibly,
is that a nice way to say that?
Possibly either, a fee establishment for some of us,
staff.
And or possibly some way of maybe doing any kind of a fundraising effort that we might be able to approach.
A fundraising effort, that's not an idea, and that's not something it's come, that I know of that has happening. I would certainly welcome the idea. Anytime you can get free money, basically, is when you deal with fundraising. But it's and be all for it. I would only wonder if someone would actually donate the money for a parking lot. I mean, we can put names on fountains and buildings and stuff like that. They like that.
Somehow the idea of, alumni lot 3 somehow doesn't quite have the same patina as a building.
But I have a strong, and I'm being realistic here. I'm not favoring it one way or the other. But I have my inkling is that the brunt of the if there are any monies is going to come out of the pockets of the students and faculty.
Right. Yeah.
And that's,
Okay. As far as some of the other issues we're kind of looking at, I know that one of the concerns that you've also addressed is the nighttime security lighting on campus. We're fortunate in that Valdosta State is a very low crime rate campus.
That is true.
But obviously, unfortunately, it only takes one crime situation to make everyone aware of the potential for it. Yes. How do you see the lighting situation possibly being altered as we move forward in this?
Well, I always believe in beginning with an appropriate proverb, and as we all know this, prevention is better than cure. I recognize that the administration has so many things to work out as far as priorities, budgets, and everything. I do believe that one way that this could be addressed is pinpointing, maybe the Division of Business and Finance pinpoint the specific areas on campus it's easy to locate that need immediate lighting, and then maybe work in phases. Okay. Because we recognizing that Rome was not built in a day. In phases, maybe work on this area like Georgia, behind Georgia Hall, which is a very dangerous area, right. And then work towards behind Patterson and Lowndes Halls. So it can be done in phases. The important thing is it needs to be done. That's right. The concept.
We need to start moving forward
should be a priority,
and get something going.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and we will be right back with more of Vantage Point right after this.
Kathy died real suddenly from a brain aneurysm. She was 29 years old. There was no warning. Organ donation was a very painful decision to make on my own. I wish we'd talked about it because I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. We didn't have that discussion because we thought we were young. We thought we had a lot of time, but we didn't.
Math, a four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that.
Why design the world's newest chips?
When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra.
No pocket protectors here.
But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look.
That's math staring back at you.
It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.
Welcome back to Vantage Point. Each show, we will feature a campus news update. And now, for this week's news report, from West Hall, here's Angela Severino.
The fight for a ramp at the commencement address looked nearly impossible at the onset. Not a single reply in nearly a month. But Misty Hayes continued her fight. 23 years old, a senior, middle grades education major, Misty graduates June 12th in the PE complex, whereas 300 fellow graduates will walk up stage and receive their diploma. Misty, who was confined to a wheelchair, had been expected to maneuver her wheelchair to the front of the stage where President Bailey would have descended to place in Misty's hand her diploma. It was a long fight, but the ramp Misty requested to have installed will be installed for the graduation ceremonies. We had the opportunity to speak to Misty prior to the good news, and here's what she had to say.
Misty Hayes is a very positive person, at least I try to be most of the time. I don't let too many things get me down. I've got a lot of patience because of all the things I've dealt with in my life. You know, you grow up with having a muscle disease and you're different anyway, you know, and people set you apart as being different, but there are also people that don't even see the disability at all. And I like to try new things. I've tried playing tennis before. I'm not very good at it, but, you know, I've tried it. I like to bowl. We just went bowling recently. I beat everybody, walking folks included. I like to do just about anything. You know, I try anything once, pretty much, unless it's something bad, of course. Well, I hope that that they will continue this fight. If it doesn't work out for me, I hope that others will, as far as the ramp goes for graduation, that I hope that if it doesn't happen for me, that I hope it will happen for the rest of the people that are here. And I hope they give them as much hell as they can give them. Because, I mean, it's real important. We're just like everybody else. We deserve to be on that stage just like everybody else. I mean, that's basically it. And I guess I just want everybody to keep fighting, you know, and not sit back and wait for somebody else to do it, because if you do, it may not happen. Well, at the present time, what they've done in the past is they have the president walk down the stairs and hand the person in the wheelchair their diploma. Well, I don't think that's exactly fair. I mean, it's supposed to be equal here, but yet they don't want to build a ramp necessarily. Well, they haven't said no, but they're leaning towards saying no is what I've heard. I just don't think that's right. It's not. Well, if they can spend the $7,000 they spent on new grass out there, to put new grass out there for the able-bodied athletes to come through here with Olympic torch, I think that they can build a little ramp for me for graduation, which they can use later on. If they build it right, they can have it for a while, and they can use it for the other students that come along. It won't be like they just threw it out the door and, you know, won't be able to use it again. That money will not be wasted. As far as the grass goes, grass is grass. I mean, who cares if it's fluffy grass or whatever? You know, it's $7,000 grass. Well, it'd be nice if I had a $7,000 ramp or even a $2,000 ramp. I don't care how much it costs. I think I deserve it. I think all the rest of the people that need it deserve it.
To get a close-up look at Misty's case and an in-depth look at the physically challenged students at VSU, watch for our next edition of Vantage Point. Reporting for Vantage Point at West Hall, I'm Angela Severino.
To have a dream, but never the chance to achieve it. That is perhaps the greatest tragedy in life. The United Negro College Fund exists to bring the dreams of thousands of young people within reach. Hands that yearn to touch lives. We train to heal, to teach, to bless. We encourage souls that hear music to write symphonies and sing anthems. And to those once bound by poverty, we present a wealth of possibilities. When you support the United Negro College Fund, you give more than money. You give dreams that may have died, the power to live.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Gee, Vince, what kind of dummy wouldn't know how to use a child safety seat?
Beats me, lad. It's child's play.
You just buckle him in.
Unless he's over 20 pounds.
Then this one's good.
Except if he's over 40 pounds.
Then you're into this kind of rig.
What if he outgrows that?
Put him in a booster seat?
What if he's too big for the booster seat?
Would he use the safety belt?
The Auto Safety Hotline can tell you everything you need to know about keeping your child safe in a car.
I'm a wreck.
Totaled.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Call 1-800-424-9393.
There's an awesome power that can eliminate over half of our nation's defense forces. It's everywhere, and it can strike at any time. Who has this incredible power? You do. If you employ National Guard and Reserve members, you need to use your power wisely, because today, the Guard and Reserve make up over half of our country's defense. So when they need time off to serve, be a hero. Give them the freedom to protect ours.
As you've heard, the problem has been identified and the solution is underway, but we need to make sure that the solution continues to move forward. Vantage Point will keep you abreast of the parking situation as we move through the coming academic year toward a solution. We'd like to thank especially our guests Uday Echo and John Trombetta for joining us, and be sure to join us for the next Vantage Point when we take a close-up look at the physically challenged students at Valdosta State. For Vantage Point, I'm Michael Taylor. Thank you for watching.
Problems, concerns. The answers can be hard to find. Your voice may not be heard. The alternative, Vantage Point.